Good morning, Brew Daily Show. I'm Neal Freyman.
And I'm Toby Howell.
Today, more Americans are falling behind on basic skills. Is it TikTok's fault?
Then you really can buy anything on Amazon. It's now selling cars. It's Wednesday, December 11th. Let's ride.
Earlier this week, Time magazine released the shortlist for its Person of the Year, who will be announced tomorrow. So I want to play a little quiz with you all. Toby, you can participate too. I'm going to give you a list of 6 names. 5 are finalists for Time's Person of the Year, and 1 is not a finalist. Try to guess which one is the imposter I included on the list. Here we go. Kate Middleton, Mark Zuckerberg, Caitlin Clark, Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, Kamala Harris.
Oh my gosh, they all seem... My initial thought was Caitlin Clark because maybe she's just not quite big enough. But my other thought was Mark Zuckerberg because I don't know, other than come on our podcast, what really big thing did he do this year? But tell us, what is the correct answer?
The correct answer is Caitlin Clark as the imposter.
Oh, wait.
So Mark Zuckerberg is shortlisted for Time's Person of the Year, but I agree with you. I'm not exactly sure what he did except, get a makeover a little bit. Caitlin Clark did win Time's Athlete of the Year yesterday, so she is going home with some hardware, but she is not up for Person of the Year. Who do you think is going to win Person of the Year?
That was sneaky, Neal. I think, wait, is Elon Musk on the short list?
Yeah.
Okay, so he might go back to back. Oh, no, he didn't win it last year, so I think probably Elon Musk. He's pretty dang influential. Time Person of the Year.
You know who else is influential? Donald Trump. He is by far the odds-on favorite to win this thing tomorrow morning.
Fair enough. Now a word from our sponsor, Sage. Neal, in your eyes, what makes a successful CFO?
For me, a successful CFO is one I never have to think about because they are off doing successful CFO things beyond my comprehension.
They are a little like magicians in that way, but they're not actually magic. They're real people who need real tools to drive growth across their businesses.
Instead of a magic wand, finance pros need Sage. The days of not knowing how to do a VLOOKUP are over. Use Sage to cut accounting time and grow your business faster.
So less abracadabra, more Sage. Visit sage.com for more info. That's sage.com. On Monday, Luigi Maggioni was charged with the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, and just hours later, online stores were flooded with merch that sported his name and likeness alongside phrases like, "In this house, Luigi Maggioni is a hero." T-shirts, coffee mugs, stickers, you name it, people were selling it. Wired found nearly 100 listings featuring Mangioni's name or image on Etsy alone, and over 800 results come up if you search for deny, defend, depose, the 3 words that were etched into the bullet shell casings at the scene of the murder last week. It's been one of the stories within the story of the assassination, how different parts of the internet have reacted and in some cases embraced Mangioni. The McDonald's that Mangioni was spotted at in Altoona, Pennsylvania, it's been review bombed with hundreds of people flooding the restaurant's Google page with negative reviews calling the workers rats and snitches.
This reaction is something we saw right from the outset too. A Facebook post from United Health Group soon after Thompson's killing received 62,000 reactions, and 57,000 of those were the laughing emoji. Speaks to the deep animosity people have toward the healthcare insurance industry, but also shows just the internet's intense fascination with this character whose privileged background in Baltimore haven't deterred people from standing him as a folk hero, despite him allegedly fatally shooting someone in Manhattan.
It is odd, Neal. Most of these sellers on the merch side of things are just trying to catch in. You see a lot of print-on-demand shops with products for sale because they let these opportunistic sellers capitalize on trends very quickly. You see it really anytime a meme goes viral, from something as harmless as Moo Dang to something as serious as an assassination of a healthcare CEO. If you go to some of these sellers' pages, you'll find other merch maybe related to MAGA or Donald Trump, some featuring a ray gun. They are just these sellers who jump in on any internet train. But I think part of the reason why the internet has had such a field day with this particular story is that so much of Mangioni's public life is out on the internet for people to see. People are going through his Goodreads account to see what books he was interested in, going through his X account to see what he was into. I saw a screenshot from the UPenn Crushes group, a Facebook group where Mangione went to school. So this is a capital V, capital O, very online story.
And how are companies responding to this? So you mentioned that the McDonald's in Altoona was review bombed with all these one-star reviews. Well, Google has removed all of them because they don't want reviews pertaining to a particular location that from people who have not even been there. So they've cracked down hard on that. And then when it comes to these online selling platforms, so something like eBay, they have taken down the ones that glorify or celebrate the actual murder or the violence, but they're allowing the ones to stay on that just say deny, defend, depose, because that is within their guidelines. Amazon has taken a harder approach and removed more of these listings. So you're seeing a couple of different approaches from companies here. GoFundMe is another one. There have been a few GoFundMe set up for Mangione. They have removed those because they have a policy against funding, defense actions. So the companies have taken a different tack to whack-a-mole all these things that have popped up.
Another interesting wrinkle to this case is that is related to social media is that usually in high-profile crimes like this, you will see kind of this outpouring of internet sleuths that jump online and try to solve the murder alongside or solve the case alongside police. But in this case, the Wall Street Journal documented multiple instances of the online community actively not trying to help, and there actually was no aid. And in some cases, there was actually trying to hamper the investigation. So that was another interesting thing that we saw bubbling up, is that people weren't doing the online sleuthing thing that you mostly see on TikTok or Instagram or something like that. And in some cases, we're going the opposite direction entirely.
What do internet experts think about this? Well, there was a report from earlier this week from the Network Contagion Research Institute, and they called this phenomenon of online accounts glorifying the shooter as a cause for concern, because usually you see this kind of stuff on fringe platforms like 4chan and 8chan after mass shootings. The report's authors wrote, while this phenomenon was once largely confined to niche online subcultures, we are now witnessing similar dynamics emerging on mainstream platforms, amplifying the risk of further escalation.
Finally, what is the latest on the case itself? Mangione and his legal team appeared at an extradition hearing in Pennsylvania. They are working to contest bringing him back to New York to face murder charges. He's pleading not guilty to those offenses, his lawyer said. I haven't seen any evidence that he's the shooter.
Yesterday marked 1 year since Javier Milei took over as president of Argentina. The political newcomer and libertarian economist sparked intrigue all over the world for his pledge to use unconventional methods to bring Argentina back from the brink of hyperinflation and revive its flailing economy. So far, so good. 365 days into Milei's presidency, the progress has been notable. Inflation has plunged from a monthly rate of 26% last December to 2.7% in October. The rapidly depreciating peso has strengthened considerably against the black market dollar, and Argentina's sovereign bond prices have almost tripled since his election. Bringing down inflation has not been without pain, though. As promised, Milei took a chainsaw to government spending, implementing hardcore austerity measures, including laying off tens of thousands of government workers, freezing infrastructure projects, and imposing wage and pension freezes below inflation. Unemployment and poverty have climbed. Still, Argentines are giving him plenty of latitude to continue his turnaround plan. Milei's approval rating stands at about 50%. Toby, this fiscal experiment has gained global attention and may provide a blueprint for other conservative leaders.
I think to really understand the impact of Javier Milei, you have to go back to a year ago. Supermarkets were changing their prices almost on the daily as they were trying to keep up with inflation. People were spending their pesos as soon as they got them because they'd be worth less in a week, in a month. So you have to go spend them now. So in comes Milei, the anarcho-capitalist, the former TV guy. He vows to blow up the central bank. He vows to bring a chainsaw, a literal chainsaw. That imagery has been a very big part of his presidency, to the government and kill sky-high inflations. And I guess you can really look at his effect in two ways. on the bad side of the coin is what you mentioned. Unemployment is way up. Economic activity is a little bit down. Poverty is up to a 2-decade high. But then on the other side of the coin, inflation has plummeted. It has come down. Bonds have regained some of their value. And the country's risk of default is at its lowest point as it's been in 5 years. So it really is whatever side of the coin you want to look at, you can either support his policies or detract them.
And many people in Argentina do support them, a 50% approval rate with poverty over 50%. And there also hasn't been these mass protests that were envisioned when he implemented these severe austerity measures. I mean, 200,000 construction workers have been laid off because he froze all infrastructure projects. From the banking community, so these are people that are working with Argentina from JP Morgan, that the Argentina country head for JP Morgan compared it to a company coming out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy that needed to get its financial house in order. It has a lot of assets, but it has a lot of distress as well. And this guy is pretty happy with the progress so far. He says this company, which he means Argentina, is getting out of a Chapter 11 after less than a year. Things couldn't be better from where I stand. So 1 year in, things are going pretty okay because Milei wanted to kill inflation first. He did that. Now there's a much bigger challenge of getting the economy back going again and really opening up Argentina, which is a very, very regulated insular economy, to the world and global market.
Right. You do need to see this economic revival that he has been promising follow through, because there has been a lot of pain. So you need to have something on the other side of it. One reason why people think his approval rating has remained relatively steady despite that increase in poverty that you've mentioned is that he was very open and honest about, like, things are going to get worse before they are going to get better. But now you are in the things have to get better phase of things. So that will be the real test to see if all this pain was inevitably actually worth it.
And let's talk about his global influence too. I mean, the fact that he brought a chainsaw and talked about taking a chainsaw to the government is very much in line with what you're seeing adopted in the incoming Trump administration with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Milei is buddy-buddy with Trump and Elon Musk. He's very close with Elon Musk. So you're starting to see his influence creep north of the equator to the United States.
Have you ever been shopping for some extra toilet paper on Amazon and thought to yourself, I really wish I could also buy a car right now? Well, you are in luck, because the so-called everything store took the name literally and partnered with Hyundai to launch Amazon Auto. You can now browse, work on financing, and arrange delivery for your very own Hyundai without ever leaving Amazon.com. The actual shopping experience makes a lot of sense. You can search for the model you want, go deeper to customize things like trim, color, and interior features. And during the checkout process, instead of clicking one-day shipping, which it doesn't offer, you can e-sign all the annoying paperwork and then schedule a time for pickup at your local participating dealership. Neal, at first glance, cars on Amazon seems a little crazy, but all the typical Amazon signals used to judge whether you should buy something, things like user reviews and star ratings, are part of this program and could be helpful. So maybe go ahead and toss in that $56,000 Ioniq 5 while you're doing a little Christmas shopping.
Yeah, well, earlier this morning, Toby and I, we fired up Amazon.com and we just literally typed in car. And it worked. I mean, we saw all of Hyundai's new cars in front of us. You clicked in, we saw all the specs. And I think one reason why people may gravitate to this, obviously this is the early stages of Amazon's entrance into cars, is that, you know, survey after survey shows that the dealership experience, the experience of going in, talking to a dealer, buying a car from them, haggling, is miserable. So I think people are looking for different ways to buy cars. Online car shopping has been around a long time. I mean, Tesla really revolutionized this because Tesla doesn't have any dealerships and you have to buy a Tesla online. Same goes for other EV upstarts like Rivian. So Amazon is certainly not the first to revolutionize. Amazon is not the one who Amazoned car buying, but now it's getting in, and maybe its competitors should be worried.
Yeah, the Amazonification of car buying has already happened, but now Amazon wants to put itself at the middle of that, at the center of it. Some dealers are a little skeptical because, of course, they're going to be skeptical as they think buying cars is a complicated business, and there are also these rules in the U.S. that prevent retailers from selling cars directly to consumers. There's actually a lot of protections for dealerships that make them still be central to the process, but Amazon has skirted around those rules because it is working with Hyundai dealerships to say that, hey, people order online on our platform, but you have to go to the dealership to pick it up, and you guys still facilitate the transaction there. So they are playing nice with the dealership industry, which is why some people are bullish on this, because basically it's just a top of funnel.
It's just Amazon.
Yeah, it's just Amazon. You go click it, and instead of it showing up in one day, though, you have to go and pick the car up. But I think people are pretty okay with going to pick up a car and not having it shipped to their doorstep.
Yeah, they're getting around these laws by just saying they're the middleman connecting dealers with customers, which is what they say to every other third-party seller on their platform. The question is, what do these competitors do? Auto Trader, Carvana, CarMax, I expected their share prices to go down 30% yesterday because Amazon's getting into the business. Seems like investors aren't too worried at the moment. All of those other companies sell used cars, and they have a much bigger selection than Amazon does right now. Amazon will slowly dip its toe in, though. Next year, it says it's going to expand just beyond Hyundai, which is probably pretty important because people don't just buy those cars, and then also getting into more cities. Right now, it's just in 48 cities.
Up next, U.S. adults are getting worse at reading and math.
Every decade, a test is administered to adults around the world to assess basic life skills like reading a thermometer, finding info from a website, and creating a comprehensive travel itinerary. The idea is to measure job readiness and critical thinking skills among people in the workforce. Well, the results are in from last year's survey of adult skills, and they are not good for the U.S. It showed that Americans are falling behind other advanced economies. Out of 31 industrialized countries and economic regions given the test, the U.S. ranked 14th in literacy, 15th in adaptive problem solving, and 24th in numeracy, which is the ability to understand and work with numbers. More than 1/3 of U.S. test takers didn't demonstrate the skills that would be expected of a primary school student, up from 29% in 2017, the last time the test was administered. And 28% of U.S. adults ranked at the lowest levels of literacy compared to 19% in 2017. The findings show that the learning loss U.S. students experienced during the pandemic may also be happening with those out of schools, and it could be a problem for employers who are looking for workers with skills they don't have. Toby, what's your takeaway from this study? Why is the U.S. languishing in terms of basic skills?
I mean, it's not just the U.S., though. It is most of the developed world did see losses in literacy and numeracy. Some of the potential reasons for this that they looked at globally was increased migration, which if you bring in a lot of adults who are non-native speakers of that language to a country, of course they're going to fare worse in tests that involve literacy. Also, aging populations don't help either. A lot of countries are getting older, and data over the years has suggested that numeracy and literacy actually peak at age of 30, and then it's downhill from there, or not downhill, just you don't get better after the age of 30. Another reason that was put forth by one of the people who helped administer the studies was that a lot of adults are getting a lot less practice than they used to reading books, and you can blame TikTok, you can blame Instagram, whatever you want to say, but our time is pulled in a lot of different directions. People aren't reading as much as maybe they were a decade, 2 decades ago. So those are a couple of the reasons why we might be seeing these trends.
And you're right. The world broadly is not doing so well, but the U.S. has had a precipitous decline. It's just administered the last time it was administered was 2017. In the interim, Denmark, England, Canada, and Germany surpassed the U.S. in literacy. Singapore, Ireland, and France moved ahead in numeracy skills. So the U.S. is falling down the leaderboard. But let's talk about the leaderboard. Who did well? Well, the same 8 countries got the top 8 in all 3 categories: Finland, Japan, Sweden, Norway, Netherlands, Estonia, Belgium, and Denmark. And for everyone living in Finland, Papa Finnish, what do they call it? Long drink, I think. Yes, Papa Long drink, because you were the top of the rankings in all 3 fields.
Yeah, Finland is crushing it. Japan is also doing very well. There are real-world implications to these tests as well. Real-world implications of having smarter people in a society, because people who perform better in these tests actually see wages that are 75% higher than those with worse scores. And it's not just financial either. Higher scores also report that they are happier and in better health. So lower scorers seem to be more suspicious of others and more likely to report feeling alienated as well. So it's not just a test. It is something that has broad impact up and down societies.
Let's sprint to the finish with some final headlines. The quest to build self-driving cars has claimed another victim. General Motors said it would stop trying to make an autonomous robotaxi through its Cruise unit and instead shift its focus to making advanced self-driving technology for its existing fleet of cars. For CEO Mary Barra, Cruise was an ambitious and ultra-expensive bet that went south. GM poured $10 billion into making robotaxis with the hopes the unit would bring in $50 billion in revenue by 2030. But a safety incident in San Francisco sidelined Cruise's cars, even as competitors like Waymo shot ahead and expanded into other cities. Barra decided it just wasn't worth it to keep pouring money into this business without a viable path forward. She said, "You have to understand the cost of running a robotaxi fleet, which is not our core business and is very expensive." Toby, do you understand?
Yeah, I do understand. This is a major egg on the face moment for Barra and then also just GM in general. It just ran into a lot of issues. I mean, not even pun intended there, because yeah, it did strike and drag a pedestrian. It then had some federal regulatory scrutiny and it potentially lied in its report to them. And then Cruise's co-founder and CEO left as well. Cruise laid off 900 people. The writing was on the wall, but what this really is too is any loss for Cruise is a big win for its competitors, a big win for Waymo. It really does look like Waymo, you can toss Tesla in there as well, although they're a bit of a wild card, is the clear winner in the self-driving space as of now because they are operating in multiple cities across the country. Right?
Waymo's operating in a bunch of cities, and they just announced earlier this week or last week that they're going to Miami by 2026. So they are pulling ahead. You're right. Tesla said it would roll out a robotaxi fleet in 2026. Amazon also has a competitor in this space, but Cruise is no longer with us. They're just going to be doing that, advanced driver assistance tech for GM's existing vehicles.
A federal judge in Oregon has temporarily blocked the proposed $25 billion tie-up between Kroger and Albertsons, dealing a blow to what would have been the largest supermarket merger in the United States. The judge sided with the FTC's argument that the merger would lead to reduced competition, potentially harming consumers through higher prices and fewer choices. In a separate ruling in Washington, a state judge also permanently blocked the merger. So this thing is looking dead in the water and deals a huge blow to both Kroger and Albertsons, who argued that joining forces was necessary to compete with the big boys of the grocery world like Walmart, Amazon, and Costco.
Yeah, this is Lena Khan, the FTC chair, doing the Steph Curry sleep move right now, because this is perhaps her last decision, her last action that she's brought against mergers. She's done a ton. She's had some wins and losses over the past 4 years, but she is going to be replaced in the incoming Trump administration by a guy who's already on the FTC commission named Andrew Ferguson, who is expected to take a much lighter touch than Lena Khan to mergers. He is still going to go after big tech companies. He said that they deserve a lot of scrutiny, but for mergers like maybe the supermarket mergers or the handbag merger that we talked about that Lena Khan successfully blocked, those might get to skate through. So maybe these two companies will try again in a few months, but right now it seems like this temporary injunction that the judge ruled for will put this merger completely on ice.
Yeah, the judge was not so down with the fact that Kroger and Albertsons were like pinky promising that they were going to lower prices, which isn't actually a legally binding process. So it was a pretty scathing review saying like, hey, you guys are saying something that cannot be enforced and that we don't know if you actually do. And then the other part that they had issue with their divestiture plan, they promised to sell off over 500 stores to this other operator called CNS. But both judges in both cases that I mentioned argued that CNS is ill-prepared to take on the stores and will likely end up selling or closing those stores. So those were two issues that these judges had with this merger.
Remember earlier this year when there was that secretive hearing in Nevada where Rupert Murdoch tried to change the family trust so that his son, Lachlan, would gain full control over his media company and make sure it maintains its conservative leanings? Yeah, well, he lost. A Nevada commissioner ruled against Murdoch's attempt to change the family trust to cut out every other kid besides Lachlan, which means that 4 of his children will have equal say in the future of his media empire, which includes Fox News and the Wall Street Journal. In the end, it really wasn't much of a fight. The commissioner ruled resoundingly against Murdoch, calling his bid to change the family trust a carefully crafted charade. Toby, walk us through a bit why Murdoch wanted to strip power away from the 3 other children.
The eldest boy being screwed again. Where have I seen this for? But yes, big implications here because Murdoch this isn't about money. He still is saying that his children can share in the wealth of this organization he's created, but it is about power. He wants to keep one of this biggest, most powerful conservative media apparatuses in the world together. Lachlan was going to be the person who was very aligned with Rupert and what his vision for, Fox News and this general news conglomerate should behave like. So James and Elizabeth, some of his other children, are a lot less conservative politically than their father or their brother. So that was why Lachlan, the eldest boy, was trying to force the courts to grant him control over this empire, but it's looking like another Succession incident. I don't know who the Tom is in this scenario, but maybe someone coming in from the outside.
And the parallels between the HBO Succession and this case are not theoretical, because apparently the kids decided to bring this case and challenge their father's family trust realignment after he is gone. After they watched this episode of Succession, where, if people know the show, after he dies, they're trying to figure out how to divvy up the empire, and it's absolute chaos. They're literally looking at this piece of paper that they can't read. So that inspired Elizabeth's representative to get everyone together and say, we need to figure this out before he dies, because this can be absolute chaos, because I watched it on a TV show.
Neal, spoiler alert. Come on, you gotta say spoiler alert there. No, you're within the window. It's been long enough since that season ended. A major kerfuffle has broken out at the Spanish World Scrabble Championships because a man named Nigel Richards has won it despite not speaking Spanish. Richards' victory has led to indignation across Spain. An incredible humiliation is how one local newscaster described it. But for those who follow the professional Scrabble scene, it was no surprise. Nigel Richards, who's originally from New Zealand, has been described as the Tiger Woods of Scrabble. People say playing Richards is like playing a computer. He's won the French Scrabble World Championships twice, despite not speaking that language either. Neal, this guy is the GOAT.
I mean, Richards, talk to me when you do Romanian or Italian Scrabble, because, the Spanish Scrabble dictionary only has about 400,000 words. The French one has 386,000, so you can memorize those in a few weeks. Come on. But the Romanian and Italian Scrabble dictionaries have more than 500,000 words each. So until he wins those, then I'm not aboard the Richards train.
His peers are like he would make a great doctoral thesis subject, because it's incomprehensible that someone can have that much of an understanding of the language without actually being able to speak the language. How can you memorize the entire Spanish Scrabble dictionary, which apparently he did ahead of his win, without actually being able to hold a conversation? It is such a interesting, like, left brain versus right brain sort of thing, where you know all the words of a language but can't actually speak that language. This dude is extremely interesting.
That is all the time we have. Thanks so much for starting your morning with us, and have a wonderful Wednesday. For any questions, comments, or feedback, send an email to morningbrew.daily@morningbrew.com. And if you're feeling extra merry this holiday season, give the gift of Morning Brew Daily to a friend, coworker, or family member. You don't even have to come in through the chimney. Just send a link to someone who you think would enjoy the pod. And for more sharing inspiration, Toby's got you covered.
I want you to share the podcast with someone who you used to play Words with Friends with. That Scrabble story reminded me that I got so into Words with Friends during the pandemic, and it was a great way to stay in touch with people. So maybe re-download it, send someone a challenge, and send this episode to go alongside it.
Let's roll the credits. Emily Milliron is our executive producer. Raymond Liu is our producer. Olivia Graham is our associate producer. Uchenua Ogu is our technical director. Billy Menino is on audio. Hair and makeup just played a Q on a triple letter. We're so done. Devin Emery is our chief content officer, and our show is a production of Morning Brew.
Great show today, Neal. Let's run it back tomorrow.